Is this working?
Camera troubles. Hi, this is Janani.
And this is Siddharth.
And this is Dabba Stories.
A place, a place where we share stories and food about our life, the universe, and everything. Uh,
Today we have some cucumber, or as our 2-year-old now calls it, cucumbai.
We're posting after quite a long time, a year.
Yeah.
And we didn't know how to start. Actually, it's taken us this long because the video we wanted to start with is something that took us quite a while to process, to get through, and we feel like we're now finally ready to share that story with all of you. So today we want to talk to you about caring for a loved one who's having a terminal illness.
So about a year ago, my mother Radha was diagnosed with a recurrence of her cancer. She had breast cancer once in 2018 and then a recurrence of it in 2022. And we went through 6 months of caring for her and for ourselves, and she passed in March of 2023. And it's been a few months of processing since then, and we've been feeling like we want to make this video to share what we learned and what struck us through that process. So if this is a topic that you would feel uncomfortable listening to, then do head on to our other videos and check them out. We share a lot of fun stuff about what's happening in our lives and what we think about things. If you or someone you know are dealing with a situation like this, we'd love for our video to be useful to them.
So, one of the first things that we feel like we learned is choosing where to put our energy. There are a lot of demands on your energy if you're one of the core caregivers. A lot of demand from family members, from friends.
Sometimes without intending to also.
Right.
Like one of the things we had to figure out a lot of was every time you talk to somebody who doesn't know, or it's the first time you're talking to them after they come to know that Amma had cancer, you'd have to deal with your emotion and their emotion. People who've not met her for 20 years, but at some point they made an impact on their life and they sweetly want to come and share in that moment with you. But then they start to cry in front of you. And I'm her daughter who has to actually live this out on a daily basis, who's losing her mother. But I have to figure out whether how I'm going to empathize with you without losing too much energy in that transaction.
Yeah. So I think Amma was very clear about how she was choosing to spend her energy. She said that the only people she will work to empathize and calm down would be her own parents, and all the rest of us have enough learnings from her that we need to process it on our own. And she wanted us to be positive and sharing good stories when with her.
Yeah, I think as most people with cancer, she was in a lot of pain through those 6 months. She dealt with it amazingly well. But one of the things that helped her to deal with it was not having to deal with the emotions of other people. So she cut herself off from a lot of people, some of whom got hurt by the decision. But that's what she had to do to deal with her situation.
Yeah.
And with 6 months left of life, we ensured what she chose happened, and she didn't have to say twice that she needed something.
Yeah.
But as a caregiver, we had to make that choice for ourselves as well. Who do we empathize with? How do we chat with them in a way that we feel like we're saving enough energy for ourselves and for Amma?
Yeah. one of the things she told me very strongly was to take care of myself. She said, do that first, and then you will have the strength to deal with everything else. But if you're not prioritizing taking care of yourself sufficiently to be able to help others, you won't be able to help others in the long run.
Yeah.
So I think that was learning number one.
What was learning number two?
I think detach a bit and have no expectations. So very much live in the present with cancer and many other terminal illnesses. You don't know what's going to happen the next day.
Yeah.
And someone might say that, oh, there's 10 months, oh, there's 6 months. The doctors we were working with were really great. They didn't sort of raise false expectations in any way. But any expectation at all becomes a burden.
I think let's talk about it in first person, right?
Right.
When Amma first got her diagnosis, it took us a month before we could sort of determine, not a
How
month, I
serious
don't know
that was.
how long it took. It took a certain amount of time that felt very long
How serious
to
it
determine
is.
how serious it was, whether there were any treatments available, what her life expectancy was like, what her quality of life would be for that amount of time, whether it was the same cancer or some other cancer, or how that would work. And it can be, for a person like me, it was very frustrating, very traumatic to not know what tomorrow would bring. I like planning. I love making lists, and I like knowing, if you tell me I have to expect a tremendous amount of pain and suffering, and that's my only choice, no problem, I will deal with it. But if you tell me there may be pain or there may not be pain, I find that difficult. Even though there's less of a chance of pain in that situation than this first situation. But I had to make peace with that. In fact, the estimates, even though they told us many times before giving the estimates that these are just estimates and have no actual way of guessing, the estimates said that Amma would have more time than she actually ended up having.
At nearly all stages.
At nearly all stages. So every time, at first we thought she'd have close to a year or two. And then we tried a treatment that didn't work. So the expectation of whether that treatment would not work or would work for 4 months of suffering through chemotherapy was a challenge in itself. And then once we realized it was not working, the question of how much longer would she have, where the doctors didn't even estimate a guess because they didn't know how the treatment would have affected the cancer. So I had to live every day not knowing what tomorrow would bring. It taught me a lot. I don't think I learned it in the moment. I learned it afterwards, learned the lesson afterwards, but it was a hard and important lesson. And I wish I learned it a bit sooner, to really live in the moment. And Amma knew it. Amma learned it very well. She taught it to us, I think.
I think she was very much living that well before. Anyway, she was just always living in the moment, as far as I knew her, which was the last 6-7 years.
Yeah, until the last possible day, she was going to the gym and trying to learn how to work out from Shyamla, my sister-in-law.
She was trying to learn how to swim.
Yeah, she had never learned how to swim in her life, and so she made me try to teach her. We had about 3 lessons before she couldn't go anymore. But it was so fun to see her. She was flapping around in the pool trying to figure this out and giggling to herself about it. Yeah, and she took on every meal as a challenge because she had to go through all the nausea, and cancer in the liver also deals with a bunch of digestive issues. And so she had to figure out what meal worked for her. And so every day it will be a puzzle to crack. Do I like the taste of this? And can I stomach that? And what does research say is the best food for me to be having to possibly extend life a bit more? So then she approached it as a puzzle.
Yeah, I remember when those avocados from Chikmagalur really sat with her very well because her tongue was having difficulty with any coarseness, and those avocados were really soft. And I remember how happy she was when those avocados were in season.
Yeah. Yeah, so she did that.
Yeah.
And we learned to live without expectation in some ways.
Yeah.
What was lesson number 3?
What do you think was lesson number 3, Janani?
I don't know if this is something that everybody should choose. It's definitely not something everybody should choose. But we chose to take care of Amma at home. And we took the guidance of a hospice center and Dr. Babita from Karunashraya, who was amazing. She taught us how to help care for Amma at home, and her entire team did. And that was a real lesson for me. The first time I was nursing someone through the end of their life. The capacity to, I think motherhood prepared me a little bit for the physical strains of sleepless nights and, dealing with bodily functions. But dealing with it with an adult who has a sense of dignity, which we were trying to save. Also, dealing with the number of people who wanted to care for her. We learned that at the end of the day, it makes a difference, a real difference, if one role is only performed by one person continuously. And that person learns the way she wants it, the way that has evolved over time. She's comfortable with how that person does it. That was a good thing to learn. Achutan took care of all the medications and the dosages, even though that meant that for that last month he barely slept, because Amma would have trouble through the night and through the day. Aditi and I have to help with all the physical caring, and Shyamla would take care of a lot of the organizing and be our backup when we needed one more person to help carry Amma. So that was, Appa was her constant companion. They had lot of memories that they made.
Including a bunch of funny videos too, joke videos that they were making.
They made these series of reels on how Appa would tell terrible jokes and Appa would find that funny. I think that's lesson number 4 or 5 where are we at? I can't remember, but that's the next lesson, make memories.
Yeah, totally.
And I think I want to address this in one particular way. When you're unsure if a terminal illness will actually result, if an illness is terminal, if you're unsure about that, you sometimes don't talk about it that way because you say, I don't want to jinx it, or I don't want to put a negative energy on it, or something like that. Amma didn't approach it that way, and I'm grateful for that. She approached it from the beginning as, there's a chance of death. That chance increased with time as we got more information and more symptoms. But she was very comfortable with that possibility, and it helped us prepare our minds for it. If we had assumed that she's going to live, we may not have made the memories that we chose to make with her. We may not have processed the way we did end up processing it.
And to reiterate what Janani said, that's what worked for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the sense that Amma was the kind of person who could look at what is supposedly a bad outcome and not feel bad, feel let down. I know that feeling positive is an important part of healing, of staying functional. And for some people, that there is a finite chance of death is not something that they can stay positive to. But she was a person who was completely comfortable with that. It took us a while to get the right words, but I think a week or two after she passed, one of her classmates, her friends, came up with this wonderful line saying, Radha completed her life.
Yeah.
And when we heard that just really sank in and said, yes, that's what happened. Radha completed her life. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, it felt like a graduation or a rebirth of some kind for all of us.
uh,
Life without Radha. But she plagued it.
yeah, she listed out what were the things that she still wanted to do. She made occasions to hang out with the grandchildren while she still could.
She made us celebrate her last Kanu Pongal together. The whole family. She said, "There's no option. Everyone's coming," and she made us do that.
Everyone dressed up. We had a fun thing on the terrace. Yeah. The kids really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was a lovely memory.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much learning. I can think of multiple things now. The last thing I want to add to this video is there's two things. One is people are different, and I think moments of high stress like this brings that out and sort of showcases that. It also showcases how much empathy and love you can have for each other. But each person dealt with it very differently. Each person thought they were helping in different ways. Some felt helpful, some didn't, some later on was helpful. One sense of just empathy and calm was very necessary for us through it. We would have lost our minds otherwise. And deep love for you, for the person you're working to support, for all the people involved around that, for all their quirks and oddities and beliefs and ideas and suggestions and advice and irritations.
And I think that, like, in terms of back to the first point of concentrating your energies, so like as you said, you and Achyutan and Shamla were in a power in that core, taking care of Amma. And I felt like my energies were best put into enabling that core to have time. And so it was a lot of childcare.
Thank you for that.
And at times I would feel like there'd just be this nagging, like, I'm doing so much of this is not okay. But then I just go, and when the kids were comfortable with the nanny, with all their nannies, or with at my parents' house, I just go and spend 2 hours. Not necessarily having to talk, not necessarily having to do anything particular, but just being in the house. And that always helped me reset and realize that this is really important, this core that's working and processing and holding that. And so I feel like this is something I learned from my mother along, like I've grown up with this, that in any family event, lots of old people in our family, been at many funerals and many weddings, that you specialize, right? You decide that there's a core doing things, and you step out from that core, there should be another ring around there that's helping, taking care of the next level of organizing. And I think that keeping that specialization in mind, keeping that planning in mind was very important. One way it sort of physically happened was Amma chose to spend the last of her months of her life at Achyutan's house, which
my
is
brother's house.
Yeah, which is at the 18th floor of this apartment building. And she also wanted all of us, Janani and Aditi's families, to come and live in the same apartment complex. So just like a few days before she passed, in fact, Janani and I moved to this house on the 2nd floor. And that allowed us to keep this degree of separation, that if people want to visit, then you go up there to the core. But then if you want processing that, eating food, etc., come down here. It's not the same place. So I feel like some degree of that organization really helped.
Yeah, to put your addition in context of the point, I think what you're trying to say is make space for everybody's different needs.
Right.
And only then are you able to make space for everybody to mourn or grieve or celebrate together.
Yeah.
The last point I wanted to talk about was how it feels after.
Mm-hmm.
Before it felt like a run-up to an event in some ways. We've spent a lot of time organizing events, a manner or a run-up to a delivery, like the labor to a delivery. In the sense that you just keep your mind focused on keeping that person comfortable and dealing with so many things that come up on a daily basis that need to be dealt with. You don't quite know what to do after.
Mm-hmm.
Your day feels empty. And no matter how much you plan, you realize that person was still holding threads. That now need someone to hold.
Mm-hmm. And threads that were supporting you.
Yeah, threads that were supporting you. Also, you realize that you didn't quite care for yourself in the months before that.
Mm-hmm.
For us, we had to figure out how to care for the little ones.
As well.
Who remembered my mother as one of their primary caregivers. So this conversation. The conversations with Achintya, our 4-year-old, was difficult because I had to keep peaceful in order to allow him to process his emotions. Also, he had to understand the concept of death, for which he didn't have a real. He had not experienced it so closely before. He had seen an animal die dead, or he had seen a couple of our relatives had passed.
We were not particularly
he was not close to.
Yeah.
So I explained it to him as a situation of body function stopping. So I told him how we have this heart that pumps, we have that makes us able to move, walk, it makes our bodies function, and that Radha has a big wound. It's called cancer, and the doctors have not been able to help her solve it. So her body is no longer going to be able to function. That she will have to pass on, but that her soul, her memories, her love will always be with you. That if you miss her, you can close your eyes and think of her and you'll see her. That felt right with what I believe in. And it felt like an explanation that a 4-year-old could possibly grasp. But it needed to be, that conversation had to be had with him multiple times because he was processing it. And it would come up in these odd ways. He picked up Amma's phone 2 days after she passed and said, I'll keep this. Radha Patti is gone somewhere, no? So I'll keep this.
But there was a way, especially in the way he dealt with it, that I feel was, I was discussing it with your grandfather. Achintya fully believed the explanation that Janani gave. So he he could close his eyes and have a conversation with Radha
Yeah.
and feel fully comforted by it. And he did that multiple times and still does it now.
He and Nanda have started having. Nanda is my niece, who's 2. The 2 of them are the ones who actually remembered my mother. Or Laya, who is now less than 2 years old, I don't think she has a memory anymore of Amma. It's been 5 months.
Yeah.
Can't believe it's been 5 months, but it has been 5 months. So the 2 of them have memories of Amma, and they do sometimes talk to us or to each other about it. And Nanda believes that Amma sits inside her ear.
And Achintya, yesterday when he was playing on the swing, we asked me to push him, hard so that he swings fast. He said he's going to go up to the clouds where Radha Pati is sleeping on a softy bed. And then after he goes there, she's going to take him on her Dubu bike, which is her Royal Enfield Bullet, to Sankey. And he's like, just with full joy.
Yeah.
So
I don't know where he got the idea from. I don't know where Nanda got the idea from, but they have, and they're comforted by it.
Yeah.
And back to the point, which is there's a journey afterwards also.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll make a whole video about that, because I don't know where that journey is going so far.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. I hope some of that was useful. And the other thing that's been amazing about going through this has been listening to other people's stories of loss or celebration of life. So if you have one that you'd like to share with us, we'd love to hear.
Yeah. And I know we've not been so super available this past year, but now we're in a
more settled
space. And so we're looking forward to just doing more of these for a while. I think we've missed how important this storytelling is for our own processing journey. And so look forward to seeing you more.